Yukui Gar. Greetings, I am Tad Larkin, the Lore Master of Mandalore, and today I'll be digging through the archives to elaborate on the mighty Wookiee warrior Chewbacca. Chewbacca, son of Atachuk, was a male Wookiee born some 200 years before the Battle of Yavin on the Wookiee homeworld of Kashyyyk. Growing up in the village of Rawuk-Raworo, Chewbacca made many friends. Chiefest among them was Salporin, and the two began a friendship that would last for the rest of their lives. At the age of 13, his father accompanied him on his Hirtak, which is a Wookiee's traditional coming-of-age hunt, where the young Chewie brought down a vicious Katarn, a predatory reptomammal native to Kashyyyk, and, soon after, built his first bowcaster, a traditional Wookiee energy weapon. Between the ages of 13 and 50, Chewie became very interested in starships, piloting them, fixing them, etc., and on the Rawuk-Raworo landing pads, he learned mechanic and piloting skills from his friends. By 50, which is still considered adolescence in Wookiee culture, Chewbacca joined the Klatuvok Guild, a secret society of Wookiee navigators based in the city of Kachirho, and he became one of the most trusted navigators within the guild. Chewie spent a few years roaming the galaxy. However, he always returned to Kashyyyk to visit his family and to drop in on Mala Tobuk, a lovely Wookiee female around his age he was courting, affectionately nicknamed Mala. An albino Wookiee male, Tojevuk, challenged Chewbacca for Mala's favor, and the two engaged in a duel. However, Tojevuk brought dishonor upon himself by breaking the rules of the duel and using his claws. Chewbacca's skill at navigating the native Roshir trees allowed him to gain the upper hand, and Tojevuk was cast down into the Shadowlands, where he was eaten by predators. Tojevuk's family was none too happy about this, and would come back to plague Chewie in later years. Though Chewie won Mala's favor, they did not marry until much later in his life, after Tojevuk's father finally called off the death mark he had on him. Chewbacca dwelled with his family in Rawuk-Raworo for a time, until he joined colonization efforts led by Atachuk to settle the moon of Alaris, a nearby planet within the Kashyyyk system. In the years leading up to the Naboo blockade crisis of 32 BBY, the Trade Federation saw great interest in Alaris Prime as a trade hub, and landed an invading force of battle droids, which Chewbacca, with the help of Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, sent by the Republic to oversee Wookiee colonization, successfully repelled. Chewbacca returned to Kashyyyk sometime before the outbreak of the Clone Wars in 22 BBY, and when the Confederacy of Independent Systems invaded the world in 19 BBY, Chewie fought alongside Chieftain Tarful and Grandmaster Yoda along with the 41st Elite Corps to defend Kachirho. He was present during the treacherous execution of Order 66, and Chewie, alongside Tarful, aided Yoda in escaping, for which the stout Jedi Master was forever grateful. That same year, a group of Jedi survivors came to Kashyyyk to seek Masters Yoda, Luminara Unduli, and Quinlan Vos, who they believed could have survived Order 66, and Chewbacca offered up his services to the Jedi. Unfortunately, the Empire was right on their coattails, and an Imperial invasion of Kashyyyk was soon underway, led by the Lord Darth Vader in search for the missing Jedi fugitives that evaded his capture on Murkana. As Jedi Master Roan Shrine faced off against Vader to buy time for his friends, Chewbacca joined Jedi Orly Starstone aboard the Corellian freighter Drunk Dancer, avoiding capture and enslavement by the Empire following their subjugation of Kashyyyk. Chewie would remain a crew member aboard the Drunk Dancer for a while, aiding his new friends in sabotaging the Empire. His mindset was that he was more useful to Kashyyyk as a fugitive than a slave. Still holding a grudge over his son's death, Tvir Dako, father of Tojevuk, betrayed Chewbacca to Trandoshan slavers. However, after convincing his fellow captive Wookiees, all from rival clans, to work together, he escaped. Around 15 BBY, Chewbacca raided a slaver ship inbound for Imperial transfer, carrying Wookiee children from his home village, and he single-handedly braved the harsh vacuum of space to ensure the safe transfer of the children onto the getaway ship. Chewie wasn't so lucky. He was left aboard the slaver ship that was now being attacked by a TIE fighter squadron led by Lieutenant Han Solo, and Chewbacca was injured in the firefight and taken captive after Solo refused to kill the unconscious Wookiee. Now a slave, Chewbacca found himself under the command of Commander Peter Nightclass, and he was forced into heavy manual labor, constructing a new wing on the Imperial Hall of Heroes on Coruscant. On a particularly bad day, Nightclass got a little too trigger-happy with the Force Whip and began furiously lashing Chewbacca, reveling in his suffering. Lieutenant Han Solo, however, had enough and hit Nightclass with a stun beam, and he and Chewbacca hightailed it out of there. Han was, no surprise, dishonorably discharged from the Imperial Navy and held a small bounty over his head. Meanwhile, Chewbacca was now ever in Solo's debt for saving him from being whipped to death. Solo would come to learn that a Wookiee life debt was not held lightly. Chewbacca accompanied Solo on perilous journeys throughout the corporate sector in the years leading up to the Battle of Yavin, and during that time, Chewie found himself incarcerated and subsequently sprung from the infamous Star's End prison. The two also battled slavers on Amund and got tangled up with treasure hunters on Dalalt. After Han Solo won the YT-1300 Corellian light freighter Millennium Falcon from Lando Calrissian in a game of Sabacc on Bespin, the duo flew to Kashyyyk for some downtime, where Chewbacca and Malla Tobuck were finally married, and his son, Lumpa Warump, was born to him. Chewie's life debt to Han was still in effect, and it was unfortunately time to leave Kashyyyk, bound for a spice run that would take them on the treacherous Kessel Run. With Solo's expert piloting and Chewie's century of navigational experience, the two piloted the Falcon through a shortcut, bisecting the Maw black hole cluster, rather than taking the safer charted routes making up the Kessel Run, shaving off both time and distance by skimming a black hole's event horizon. Shortly before the Battle of Yavin, Han and Chewie had a run-in with Imperials while carrying a load of Glitterstim spice for Jabba the Hutt, and, in their hastiness, jettisoned the cargo, losing thousands of credits worth of spice, and owing Jabba big time. In Chalmun's Spaceport Cantina on Tatooine, Chewie introduced Han to the local hermit, Ben Kenobi, who was looking for passage to the Alderaan system with local farm boy Luke Skywalker and his two droids. They agreed on the price of 17,000 credits, more than enough to get their debt with Jabba squared away, and after a run-in with the bounty hunter Greedo and their passengers finally on board, Han and Chewie set off from Docking Bay 94, with Imperial sand troopers in hot pursuit, en route to their fateful voyage to the no longer existent planet of Alderaan. The rest of the events regarding Chewbacca's participation in the Battle of Yavin are pretty much common knowledge. The Falcon got ensnared by the Death Star's tractor beam, Han, Chewie, and Luke rescue the Alderaanian Princess Leia Organa, Obi-Wan Kenobi disables the tractor beam and sacrifices himself to buy time for them. Upon bringing Leia, Luke, and the droids to Yavin 4, Han and Chewie collect their credits and go. However, Chewbacca guilts Han into flying the Falcon back to help the Rebel Alliance destroy the Death Star before it destroys their Yavin 4 base, and it was Chewie and Han's heroic actions that got Darth Vader off of Luke Skywalker's tail, allowing the moisture farmer turned hero to take the lucky shot to destroy the Death Star, saving the Alliance. The medal ceremony in the Massassi Temple on Yavin 4 was short-lived. Chewbacca and Han returned the money and threw in their lot with the Rebel Alliance, which was now hastily evacuating from Yavin 4 before the Empire could mount a full counter-assault. Chewbacca then accompanied Han and Renegade Squadron, an elite Rebel commando unit created by Han, on several missions in hopes of finding a new base for the Rebel Alliance. With Renegade Squadron, they fought in battles and skirmishes near the remnants of Alderaan, on Ord Mantell while trying to make repairs, and at Boz Pity, assisting in the evacuation after the newfound rebel base was betrayed to the Empire. The Alliance settled on the Outer Rim world of Hoth 3 years after the Battle of Yavin, which was also discovered by the Empire following an Imperial probe droid's destruction at Chewie's hands. The disastrous Battle of Hoth saw the Alliance retreat, and unfortunately for Han and Chewie, the hyperdrive on the Millennium Falcon wasn't fully mended before they were forced to take off, and a chase through the Hoth asteroid fields ensued. After evading TIE fighters, space slugs, and avoiding being vaporized by Imperial Star Destroyers, Han, Chewie, Leia, and the droids crawled their way to the neighboring Bespin system, also in the Anowat sector, at sublight speeds, where they were betrayed by Lando Calrissian, and Han was encased in carbonite and taken by the Mandalorian bounty hunter Boba Fett. In the year between the Battle of Hoth and the Battle of Endor, Chewbacca kept his promise to Han by protecting Princess Leia, and often teamed up with her and an eager-to-repent Lando Calrissian in a handful of missions. After helping destroy the Tarkin superweapon and bringing about the downfall of Prince Xizor's Black Sun crime syndicate with the help of Dash Rendar, Chewbacca, Lando, Leia, Luke, and the droids traveled to Tatooine to rescue Han, who they learned was being held in Jabba's palace. Posing as bounty hunters themselves, Chewie and Leia managed to unfreeze Han, but were soon discovered and sentenced to death at the Great Pit of Carkoon, where the Sarlacc nested. However, they managed to turn the tables on Jabba, blowing up his sail barge and escaping Tatooine to rendezvous with the Alliance command fleet. Chewbacca then took part in the famous Battle of Endor, where he, Han, Leia, Luke, a handful of rebel commandos, and the native Ewoks blew up the shield generator protecting the second Death Star, allowing Lando and Wedge Antilles to fly into the superstructure and destroy the main reactor. The Death Star 2, along with Emperor Palpatine and Vader, was destroyed, and while the Rebel Alliance celebrated, the Empire began falling apart, as its Moffs began carving their own territories and descended into warlordism. Chewbacca aided the Provisional Alliance of Free Planets against extragalactic invasions by the Sizaruk, Nagai, and Toth, and after those initial road bumps, the New Republic was founded in 5 ABY. 3 years later, in 8 ABY, Han and Leia Organa were married following the defeat of the Imperial warlord Zinj over Dathomir, and the forging of an alliance with the reclusive Hapes Consortium, all of which Chewbacca participated in. A year later, Chewbacca accompanied Han, Luke, and a very pregnant Leia Organa Solo on a diplomatic mission to Bimasari, where they were attacked by Noghri Death Commandos sent by Grand Admiral Thrawn. Fearful for Counselor Organa Solo's life, Chewie offered Leia sanctuary on Kashyyyk while they tried to get to the bottom of the assassination attempt. The Noghri, however, followed them to Kashyyyk, and Chewbacca guarded Leia while the rest of the Wookiees dealt with the Noghri. Kabarak of the Kimbar clan was the only Noghri death commando to survive, and recognizing Leia as the daughter of their savior, Darth Vader, Kabarak agreed to a diplomatic resolution to the debacle at hand. Chewie accompanied Leia and Kabarak to Kabarak's homeworld of Honoghr that was devastated by an accidental bioweapon spill during the Clone Wars, and there, Leia helped convince the Noghri that the Empire was keeping their planet contaminated so that they could continue to exploit them, and the Noghri uprising was instrumental in the defeat of Grand Admiral Thrawn. A year later, when Emperor Palpatine returned after transferring his Force essence into one of his clone bodies on Biss, Chewbacca accompanied the Solos in their missions leading up to the defeat of the final Palpatine clone and the refragmenting of the Empire. Soon after Palpatine's defeat, Han and Chewie were captured and sent to the spice mines of Kessel, where they met up with a young Force-sensitive human, Kip Durin, and together they managed to escape Kessel, only to run into Admiral Dalla's fleet protecting the nearby Maw installation, and after stealing the Sun Crusher, managed to escape Dalla's clutches. In 14 ABY, Chewbacca helped thwart the Empire Reborn movement, led by the Imperial warlord Hethrir, and Leia and him posed as pirates to spring the 3 Solo children out of captivity following their abduction. 2 years later, during the Black Fleet crisis, Han Solo was captured by the Yavetha, a strong alien race once enslaved by the Empire until they revolted and stole their warships, and Chewbacca, along with his son Lumpy and his cousins, infiltrated the Yavetha flagship and sprung Han from captivity. During the Corellian insurrection in 18 ABY, Chewbacca aided the Solo family in getting off the planet Draal in the Corellia system, after suffering hyperdrive damage during their evacuation of Corellia, and together they escaped the clutches of Han's deranged cousin, Thrackan Solo. Another year later, the missing controversial Ka'amas document was brought before the New Republic Senate, and as tensions rose between the Bothans and the Ka'amasi, almost to the point of civil war, and with the news of the supposed survival of Grand Admiral Thrawn, Chewbacca took the Solo children with him to Kashyyyk, where they waited out the storm. The Ka'amas document was proven to be an Imperial forgery, and Thrawn was revealed to be an actor in makeup. So, with the threat of civil war and a reinvigorated Imperial remnant gone, Chewie and the Solo kids returned from Kashyyyk, and were present during the signing of the historic Pelion-Gaversum Treaty, ending the Galactic Civil War and bringing about peace between the Imperial remnant and the New Republic. Chewbacca would fly his last mission in 25 ABY, unfortunately, when Lando Calrissian called on Han for a favor to pick up a load of ore from Cern Padal in the Dalonbian sector. So, he set off in the Falcon with Chewie and his youngest son, Anakin Solo. Upon their arrival on Cern Padal, they made the alarming discovery that Cern Padal's moon, Dobito, was hurtling towards the planet and had about 7 hours to get off-world, and the Solos switched from loading cargo to loading as many citizens of Cern Padal City as they could. They were ready for takeoff when Anakin went off to save a toddler he heard crying in some rubble, and when Anakin was knocked unconscious by some flying debris after saving the toddler, Chewbacca went back for him and hurled him on board the now hovering Millennium Falcon. Forceful winds knocked Chewie back a few yards before he could climb on board the Falcon, and with no time left, he bade Han and Anakin to go before it was too late, and after coming to, Anakin leapt into the cockpit and flew away as his hysterical father watched helplessly. In his final moments, the Wookiee raised his fists in the air and gave one last mighty roar of defiance before Dobito slammed into Cern Padal, igniting its atmosphere and destroying everything. The sabotaging of Dobito's orbit was the work of the extragalactic Yuuzhan Vong in their opening act of war against the galaxy, and Han would never fully emotionally recover from the loss of his co-pilot and best friend. Though Chewbacca was gone, crushed by a moon, no moon could crush his spirit, and his memory would live on amongst his family and friends, and on Kashyyyk he was held in high honor, a hero the likes Kashyyyk would never see again. This ends my findings on Chewbacca. If you have any suggestions for future transmissions, don't be afraid to drop a comment. In the meantime, keep your comm channels open for future transmissions, and don't forget to subscribe. Tad Larkin, out.